get started. It's my pleasure to have to set up more chairs and to introduce this year's inaugural exhibition in the Ylvisaker Fine Arts Center Gallery. We do this once a month here at Bethany. This is our guest artist type of exhibit, and so we've got somebody who is sort of a guest, but sort of a native son of this building, of this campus. Who am I? I'm Jason Jaspersen. I teach in the studio art department here, and I set up these exhibits for the sake of the campus. Okay, so the guy who just stood up because he's trying to be helpful, this is Michael Wiechmann, and the work that you see around you on this floor and much of what's upstairs and what's hovering above us in the space, in the high space of this building, comes from his heart and hands. And he has a master's degree in art education, but he is also a master husband and father. He grew up here, and this is a kind of a homecoming. He recently took a call to teach art at Minnesota Valley Lutheran High School, not far from here. And he came from Milwaukee, where he was doing great things, piloting a massive art program at Wisco High School. And so we have a unique opportunity to answer the question his father asked me earlier tonight: what does any of this stuff mean? What is this stuff? Yeah, maybe we'll get some of that. We also have somebody else up here, and Michael invited Maida. This feels like nepotism. This is my daughter, but also she's connected with the artist and kind of grew up with him. There's a weird sort of continuity that happens. When Michael was in high school and college, he was playing with little kids, my little kids, occasionally, and now she in college plays with his little kids. And, God's grace provides this continuity in our lives. So I'm going to get out of your way and turn it over to Maida, who's officially running this show. Thank you very much for being here. Also, wait a minute, thank you very much, Barrett Finken, for providing music. One final thought: I would encourage you to engage with the artwork. You might think that you're here to hear a talk, but you're actually here to see work, and you have this added benefit of hearing some insights. So make sure you look at the work. Thank you very much.
Hey, Mike.
Hey.
I thought we would just jump right into things because I think there's a lot to talk about here. And the first thing I wanted to ask you about is just the fact that everything here is made on cardboard. Why?
Yes. First off, thanks for coming. I genuinely appreciate the idea of people getting together. And it's fun to see a community of people that are familiar and not familiar gathering, hopefully with the idea of visual things that matter and what that means. Why on cardboard? So I remember actually I was driving about a year ago in Mr. Jaspersen's van, as students will call him, and he said some things, and I was saying some things, and I was like, I've always wanted to do a show at Bethany on cardboard, and now we're here. So it was just an idea I had a while ago with value and what you value and the materials that you value and challenging I guess those questions that you have with value. So you're here right now, so you value this time, and you're choosing to not watch a movie, you're choosing to come to an artist talk. Would you pay a subscription fee to come to every art talk for $8.99, the YFAC special? Would you get paid to come and then you would come to every one? So if you check your seat, one of you got paid to come here. So that's where I wanted to start. Because when you think about value, yeah, like literally just like reach under your chair. There should be, I don't know who, I didn't actually place the money, so I'm hoping my family didn't end up with the cash. And do we have? No?
There are empty chairs.
There are empty chairs. So the person who placed it saying, keep looking in that general area. Okay. There we go. Oh no. No. Okay. Okay. So, yes, it was $20. I'm sorry, like budget was tight this month. But thank you for coming. I genuinely appreciate that. So how do you consider what you value, and how do you consider the value you place on things? I guess that's why cardboard, because I could do this whole show with materials that I had gathered out of like recycling bins, and the paint is also not like archival fancy paint. It is paint that mostly came from my grandma and my father's garages. They have plenty of things, so I was like, hey, let's go see what I can get and see if I can make some art with it.
Is the temporary lifespan of cardboard something that was important to you? Like these pieces are not made to last thousands of years, like some artists strive to make work that does.
Yeah, good question. So how do you think about archiving, and how do you think about your work lasting? I have someone back there right behind my Uncle Dave. You can actually, there's a work right by you there. Yeah, just look on the wall right over there. You see the one that's smaller than the other ones? Can you just take that off the wall? It's a little one that says, yep, there we go. See, yep, if you can just bring that up, or, yep, perfect. So can we just clap it up for her helping me out here? Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, appreciate that. Essential part of this. So this is not on cardboard, right? But initially it was made on cardboard. This is my first work I made on cardboard. And then for this question, I had it printed on metal and kind of like laser cut into it. So now all of a sudden it is archival. And so that question is somewhat, with the digital world we live in, I think sometimes we're so worried about having things last and being magical and precious as artists that we miss the playfulness that my kids have when they make art. My sweet couple of my kids are sitting on the stairs over there. Autumn made 4 works of art in about 14 minutes last night. And not a hesitation in the world, right? Just going for it and so excited about it. And she got here and instantly said, bring me to my art. I want to see it. And so that playfulness is something that I'm really trying for with this material and with this show. To not lose hope that everything you make is precious. Because as an artist, you need to make a lot of things before they can start being precious. I know so many of my works, I work with high schoolers, and so many of the works I made in high school, they shouldn't last the test of time because it's just a moment, a captured moment as you're growing. So as you're growing, don't hold on to things. I worked on cardboard for a college show, an art show in a college, because I want that idea to be clear. The work you make now isn't as good as it will be someday. But that shouldn't stop you from making it, because you have to take those steps forward. And also, a lot of these works I wouldn't consider like finished in the highest of quality. Most of these works took 2 days. Day 1, I would find the piece of cardboard, cut it in the general shape, start painting it, come back the next day, finish it up. And it's more like a sketchbook, right? You've kind of entered this cardboard sketchbook that's large, larger works, because that's where I'm at in my life. If I worked with oil paint and canvas, I have a lot of little kids that would make that be a challenge, right? Oil paint takes 3 weeks to dry. What are the chances that a hand's going to get in that, right? But I can work on spray paint and instantly have it be dry in 15 minutes and have a kid come over and touch it or scribble on it, and then all of a sudden in this kind of a show, you can do that and be at peace, and you can have joy when you're making things, which I think there's a lot of joy when I made these things.
So you just said a lot of these pieces aren't like finished to a very polished degree. How does this body of work fit into the work that you usually make then?
Yeah, well, it's here, which is not the case for some of the work that I make usually. And I feel like it's like you get to see me preparing to go and make things that have that more archival value to them. So am I going to work on oil paint again, something I love? Absolutely. But will this show and the way I worked with these materials change and affect how I work with more of an archival thing? I think so for sure. So the balance of what you're doing and how you're doing it and growing those skills to get in shape, right? Maybe this is a show that is me getting in shape as an artist. As I've been kind of making things on and off, and some of you that are in studio art here, you have this wonderful goal where you have so much time on your hands that you can focus on your craft and you can really get in really good shape. And there's some wonderful artists here that are clearly in good shape as they're making things. And yeah, I think that's something you just have to keep going with. Just with whatever you're doing, whether that's visual arts or whether that's playing the piano. Yeah, just that idea of perseverance and realizing that things can get thrown away, and that's okay.
Something that I want to make sure we talk about is the family and friends section. I've never been to a show or a gallery that's focused on one individual, one artist, but then has a whole separate section of like the people who support that artist. Can you tell me about your reasoning behind that?
I think as an art educator, that makes sense to me, that I have put my working life into the idea that investing in other people's creativity is a good choice in my life. And I get just as excited when other people make things as when I make things, if not more excited. So rather than sitting as a studio artist or spending my time focusing on creative problems, I'm spending my time investing in other people's creative expression and understanding of themselves as someone that God's given gifts to, and how can they grow those gifts. And so the friends and family section is pretty sweet. If you're wondering, friends and family is on the back wall over here behind the people that are sitting up there. And I didn't put the age of the person on purpose. So some of those are from a 1-year-old up to, maybe a 65-year-old, and there's not an age, so maybe you can kind of guess at it. And a lot of times with the friends and family section, there are people that are gifted and have focused on their craft of making things for a long time, but also some of the people here are definitely, this is their first art show they've ever been a part of. Whether that's at Bethany, or I asked one person, they've never even taken an art class, but my wife actually last night, so she finished her work, and she said the sweet title of her artwork that she didn't know was her title, and she said, I just want someone to look at it and tell me that they like it and actually mean it. Inside all of us, when we make things, we want people to enjoy them. We want people to tell us that they like it and actually mean it. So I think the friends and family section comes from the heart of that. I wanted to give people the opportunity to put themselves out there in a new way, and that's a scary thing. That's a really scary thing, to put yourself out there. And yeah, so I think that's the heart of it. I want to have joy from others. And a walker up, hello, welcome.
Oh, I think the mic quit.
Oh.
Check, test. Test, nothing? Nice and loud.
Nice and loud.
I think that's really lovely of you to invite other people and to be generous with this opportunity for yourself in that way.
Can we clap it up for the friends and family that participated?
Can you tell me more about like who you're thinking of as you make the work? You've talked about how as an instructor you think about helping others work on their work. Who are these pieces made for?
Yeah, so I think especially with people and their desire to post images of their work online, oftentimes we're making things for someone that we don't know or aren't connected to press the like button, and it changes how you make things. So I challenge artists, or I challenge you, that when you make things for people that you love, make things to give as gifts to people that you care about, and value your time to do that. How often do you think, man, I would have loved to make this more personal, but I don't have the time? So what are you using your time to do? What are you expending the amount of moments we have in a day on? And what does that mean about how you can be generous? So oftentimes when I made these for people that I see as good examples of Christian individuals in my life that have demonstrated a connection to people, a connection to the people around them, so that maybe they're late because they're having an in-depth conversation and they really care about that, or they're a really good listener. And I am production-based often, and I challenge myself when I'm looking at these people to be more in the moment and to listen longer. And so oftentimes when I was thinking about the people in the images, I think that was my challenge. And I just happened to find 2 weeks ago an image that a piece of cardboard that finally said, "Handle with care." So I titled the show with the goal that I could find the cardboard that said, "Handle with care." And then I put an image of my grandpa riding on a motorcycle with my grandma over here. Sorry, those of you up there. So that was the last work I put in here. And how do you handle with care for the people that you love? That's something I like to think about. My grandpa chose to give my great-grandma a ride when she was older on a motorcycle. That's an interesting idea, right? Because I'm sure she had some joy with that. And I think that's a good way to maybe handle with care. To take some risks, but also do it for the right reason. So what's the heart of the risk that you take? We can't play it safe with our generosity, and we can't play it safe with the ones we love and how we communicate with them. So how do you handle without care, is the name of the show, with the idea that you're doing it for the right reasons. So cardboard was a good excuse to just make a whole bunch of things that you don't have to worry about because you're not vested in your financials. I didn't spend a whole bunch of money on the show, but it gave me the freedom to make the things that I just was like, let's go in this direction. This is something I've wanted to do. Or I watched something that was kind of like, oh, this would be kind of a fun thing to try, and actually do it right away. Like if you see something and you like it, you put it on your Pinterest board, do it the next day. Just go for it. So we have some blob monsters over here. Yeah, those are weird. Some people are like, I don't get it. And I guess for me, it's really just a joyful thing that, I don't know, I kind of love them. So if you don't get it, I'm sorry, but maybe you do get it.
I personally love the blob monsters. And I remember you texting me one day just saying new rule. And then the new rule was that every little blob monster alien guy had to be wearing cool tennis shoes. So that's something you can search for. How often do you impose like rules or limits on yourself like that?
That's a good question. And an observation that's maybe really important. I think creativity we think of as like all of the options. And I would challenge that sometimes the best creativity comes from limitation. Give yourself a few tools to work with. And push those questions and the answers that come from those specific tools. So I think limitation is a great thing that maybe you don't hear enough of. What are your restrictions? And then have that carry your work. What is the story you're going to tell? What are your restrictions? Get going. Those are the only, you need a couple things, and then you can just start flying. And realize that make a couple things, and then they might turn good. But your first ideas are usually the restrictions, like kind of dialing itself in. So I restrict myself often with my art, and I guess this show is a good example of that concept. Yeah.
You've talked quite a bit about like family being a role in things. I'm curious about specifically your kids. What role do they play in the artwork that you make?
Yeah. So my kids are here and it's past bedtime, which means they're probably starting to move around. And I think being a dad is part of why I wanted to do this. As an artist, I think it's really important for people that are close to you to see you be an artist, right? Like it's easy to say like, oh, to my students, you should, make things all the time. It's a joyful thing, and like I haven't made things for 3 years. That doesn't line up. So the same thing with my kids, to have them see me making things, and it's weird the peace that brings, because all of a sudden when the adult in the room is making things, it makes it okay for them to jump on board. Oftentimes when I'm moving my hands and I'm busy with something that's not a screen, my kids will find something to do, and they'll play alongside me at peace. And some of the friends and family, there's a collaborative work with a bunch of grandkids and a mentor of mine, and there's some other collaborative works with multi-generational, which I think is kind of fun. So it's a blessing to get to be in that role. When I was in college, I was not a father, and I met my wife here, and I was actually an art show. So I got back from Italy, and there's like a little coffee shop, I don't know if it's still there, and I had an art show right when I got back. A couple weeks later, my wife was sitting in the corner. I said, I think your phone's broken. Yeah. You might understand what that means. Needs my number. And and she accepted my number. 5 kids later, here we are. Yep.
Tell me about the swoops
Oh.
going through the gallery. I think they're very fun.
Yeah, there is some like meaningful movement in the space. my goal was to activate this space. My father, who is pictured in the image kind of over there, playing with the kid, he worked here for 40 years. And when he worked here for 40 years, that means I grew up here. This was where I went after school every day. This is my students that when I was really young, I remember I threw a snowball and I hit someone in the face and I felt so bad because they're like a college student, they turned crying. I'm like, no, I didn't want to do that. And I just have weird memories of Pokemon in some random TV because we didn't have cable TV. And yeah, there's some weird memories from this college. And it just happened to be that here at Bethany, there's a really strong fine arts program. And that people before decided to invest in that idea of visual arts. And it just happened to be that was the college my dad worked at, which meant that I could focus on making things and that I could focus on growing the gifts that God had put inside of me. And I could think about that as a possibility. So being here, I guess part of this is telling a story of being a college student. If you look over there, at some point you can see a little character kind of thinking about pathways. So when you're a college student, you think how am I going to know what path to choose? About 45 minutes ago, a student was talking about that with me. I don't know, I'm undecided. I'm an undecided major. That's not okay. And I think that's the idea that people have, that it's not okay to not know. So part of this space adaptation, cardboard movement is about the fact that God will be with you through the ups and downs of your life. And you're here in this building. And for me, that was a blessing to help me find my path. And trusting that you might not know where God has put you or where you're supposed to go, but just that reassurance that God will be there. And even when you turn your back, forgiveness is a sweet, sweet thing. So I guess, breaking this space up and drawing attention to the beauty maybe of the architecture that's been here. And if you look, this bigger road leads into the drawing and sketching room, which is part of my pathway that kind of put me maybe into the role of someone that gets to invest in others in their creative path. And I also get to make things.
Can we talk more about your specific path, where you started and how you grew along the way?
Yeah, so I had an emphasis in painting here with a studio art degree with the idea I always wanted to be an art teacher. And painting has always made sense to me. We come from multi-generations of house painters. So since I was very little, I'd been working with paint. And how I've grown as an artist, I feel like I'm figuring that out. Maybe I think that I just keep asking questions. And I don't worry about the finished product maybe as much as I used to. And I just really enjoy the moments of joy that I get when I'm making things. And I guess that's what is important to me, as that's the part of my life that making things is in. I'm a dad. And I'm an art teacher. And those things really matter to me. And I'm a husband. And I'm a Christian. But I get to be an artist. My wife is so generous with me that when there's a kid crying, she's going to go to that kid and let me keep making art. It's just a joy to be able to do those things and a joy to be able to make things. And I don't have to, I don't have to do it. There's enough people that just don't. They stop. But I get to do it. And maybe that's a lot of because the people before me that are my mentors and people I look up to, they haven't stopped. You can go and plug something in your computer with words and have something turn out. But give that to your grandma for a birthday present and see how impressed she is. Give that to your kids. Hey, look at this AI prompt that I made. It's great, right? Yeah, this is awesome. I think that, yeah, taking time to make things for people that you love is a valuable endeavor.
What does the process of making work like this look like for you? How much of it is planned and how much is reacting in the moment?
Yeah, I think a lot of the work is reaction-based with a little planning. I think when you're going into a work that's loose, actually these ones behind me are a little bit more planned. A lot of the other my children artworks are less planned and more loose, but there's not a whole lot of sketchbook work with these specifically. And some of these are actually sketchbook works for future works that I want to make. So it's to-scale trials of compositions or artwork that will maybe someday be, on canvas or in a more archival quality. A couple of them are actually commissioned works that are, again, sketches for a future commissioned work that I'll make. And I think that's some of the fun. Some of the fun is not knowing. If you have a picture and you're trying to bring that picture to life and you know every step along the way, I guess as an artist for myself, that's not something that I'm as interested in.
So do you find yourself surprised by your work often?
That's a good question. Yeah, I guess, I don't know. I think we're our own hardest critics. So sometimes with my work, I want to I made it, I did it, and now I want to move forward from it. But with the way that I was making these things with spray paint, that's something I've always wanted to play around with. And I wanted, that playfulness of the material and what I've been using with this work specifically. So there's printing ink. Again, another thing that I've never really explored as a painting material, but that worked over Mod Podge really well, so that was nice. And yeah, the spray paint was really fun to get a chance to work with spray paint and really explore some of the qualities that come from that. And a material that's used traditionally to tag trains and bring destruction, I like the idea of trying to use to make beautiful things and also, play with that material.
What about some of the collaged pieces? You've got pages out of books. When you do something like that, are you intentionally using a book that makes you think of this individual?
Yeah, so we have, if you look at the different collaged images, there's a science manual for this new science teacher that is just starting at MVL, and he's kind of beginning his process. And I think that was something I wanted to reflect on, just the start of something. And there's a superhero comic book for someone that has cleaned up for the longest standing person at MVL, who's cleaned up probably after a fair amount of us here without ever asking for anything. And there's this beautiful moment, actually, at a volleyball game 1 week ago. I was there, and the students, without prompting, started chanting for the person that was cleaning up after him. And just realizing that when you are in a space and you want to have that in-depth conversation, that's really important, right? And it's easy for us to all tend to go there. But realizing the gift that you're given anywhere you are, whether that's at the cafeteria or at a place, and just being grateful for the small things is something I'm challenging myself when I made that to continue to do. There's no hierarchy of work that God's called us to do. There's work. And yeah, so like whether it's like a theological textbook for someone that loves talking about theology, but also loves reading to their kids. And so that's definitely intentional with the books or the materials that I chose to use. Also, when you look at a book, sometimes you're like, yeah, that's like the texture of the paper you want. And maybe that's enough right there to find someone that relates to that story and paint them. I'm coming for you.
You have a lot of interesting textures in the work here with the kind of stripy corrugation, and some of it, like up there and over there, is a little bit more beehive-y. Could you maybe talk us through the process of one piece so we can kind of get an idea of what that looks like?
Yeah. So we got two works here. Hi, Autumn. So the nice thing is they're really light, being made on cardboard. And so this one is one that and then there's like a flower back there. That's that beehive texture. And with the beehive texture, it's a challenge because you have to pop out every single hole. Where something like this, if you get it right, I mean, that's like 4 minutes worth of work, and this is like 4 hours worth of work. Thank you, Eddie. He was on the clock. Yeah, so a lot of the beehive stuff, and you never know, right? Like, it's not like I'm like, oh, this is the cardboard to use. So that playfulness of doing something new on new material is, I guess, some of it. And maybe there's a cardboard out there that I haven't touched yet. That will be something I'll find that I really like. But TVs, right? So you could buy a TV, really big, really cheap right now. And if you take and you buy a $300 TV that's like 68 inches, you get 3 pieces of really good quality cardboard. And the TV is like $250. And if you get the same size canvases, you can probably actually save some money by buying a TV and using just the cardboard. So that's something to think about. Everyone's parents are like, why are so many Amazon TVs being bought? Yeah. And yeah, so the process again, you know, sometimes when you're starting to peel it, and some of them are more sculptural, and that's something I'm curious about. So like this over here, this was a work that come on, Meow. All right. So this is a work that's obviously like only hinted at the fact that it's still cardboard, and the whole thing is just one piece of cardboard, and it's kind of wrapped in, and I feel like this is maybe something that I'm just getting started with. This was my first foray into it. I have an image of my daughter that's like starting to have that be included in the storytelling. I think that would be cool if the actual material, if you rip it carefully, you can kind of have that be a part of the story. So I think that'll be somewhere that I explore more. But in order to do that, with some materials, it's going to work better than others. Some cardboards just rip instantly. Others, you have to slowly work it, and you can actually hold that, which maybe is an allegory for more things, where if you can slow down and be careful with them, you can have something that's precious.
You have a really wide range of subject matter in this show. Is that like organized in any way, or are you just making whatever you want to make as long as it's on cardboard?
I think that the content is what is a search for beauty, is a search for stories. And as a Christian artist, this is what Christian artwork looks like for me. I think whether it's me exploring home and leaving a home in the simple idea of flowers and uprooting of flowers, and maybe it's exploring me coming back to a home that's been here since I was little, or me displaying myself as someone who has confidence but feeling like I'm torn in different directions, or there's meaning behind the subject matter I choose. Some is more literal than others. The blob monsters and Nikes, those are Jordans, right? And I just left a school that people really cared about the shoes they wore. And that part of my life isn't a part of my life anymore where I am. I've always wanted a pair of Jordans. I think it would be sweet right now to have that up here. To be at this gallery right now with a pair of Jordans is something that would bring me a lot of joy. But I've chosen multiple times to not give that gift to myself, but to give a gift to someone else and be generous with the funds that would go to that. That's selfish in some ways, self-glorifying, but to give those funds somewhere else that is generous. And so I think they're connected, and maybe it's abstract and random in their connection, but that's kind of maybe how my brain works. And I think a lot of people in this room has some connection to a lot of the work. And so that's kind of a fun combination because it kind of combines the randomness of it into something that seems like it's right. And some of the corrugated sculptures are just for the fun of it. I don't know. I could be arty and be like, well, here we see the inward trajectory of where you are at right now in this building, but then tonight when the lights go down, things will change. You'll never be the same. Or it's just hey, this is cool.
You just said something really cool that this is what Christian artwork looks like to you. And you have a couple pieces that I think are really, there's two back there that I think read as really overtly Christian pieces. But can you talk just a little bit more about some of these other images and how they relate to your faith?
Yeah, I don't know if you got a chance, but the postcard is a duck, and there's got this handle without care image that's a duck. And so I asked the student if that's okay if I share this. And so I painted 3 ducks. And they're up there. You should take a look at them. And you might walk by and be like, a duck, rubber ducky. But I started class last year, and the student, I would give a prompt, and they'd be drawing, and it seemed like there was always a duck included. And then the next project would come up, and again, there's a rubber duck. And then 3 weeks later, I would come by, and there would be this new project, and it would be a little sculpture of a duck. And I was just curious. I was like, okay, I have to ask. Why choose to make your art? Why are you choosing to make your art about a duck? And as a Christian who thinks about art and thinks about meaning behind the images that you see, I thought the image that he was choosing to make was profound, because the story of his life was one that I was getting to know as a new teacher in a new space. And that story has been continuing this struggle and fight with cancer. And And every time this student would get a shot, something that is scary for all of us, to get a needle, to poke you, every time that student would get a duck. And now they have 2 bins of ducks that are full of these moments that have been this struggle with this sin that is in the world, that is effective sin, this cancer, and the perseverance of God being with this student and the fact that they're here. So I wanted to make a duck because that seemed like the only correct response. And I made 3 duck paintings, and it was fun because I didn't add the duck, but I did the paintings like right in class when the student was like right there. And then I added the duck, and one day after chapel, I had the 3 out because I knew the student always showed up early to class. And I got the gift of saying, hey, which one do you want? So a gift that mattered to that one person. That was my role as an artist. That was my job as an artist. And there's 3 ducks. One is in the distance. One is in the middle ground. And then there's one that's really bold and in your face. And the student chose the one that's really bold and in your face that says, you know what? God's here. God has been with me, and I've persevered. So is it an image of a duck, or is it Christian artwork? I think about that a lot. My family, right? The family members that are included here, like, being a dad is really important to me. So as a dad, when I make things, I should have some reflection on that role that I am in. So when you see my kids in this playful way, well, that's something they came up with. The 1-year-old titled her work that she's in, and the title is Abadababudabada. She doesn't know words. And Autumn on a raft, because when she wanted to say giraffe, she said raft. That's cute. And so, yeah, I think being a Christian artist can look a lot of ways. There's the adage, like, if you're a Christian shoemaker, you don't make all your shoes with a cross on it. It would be cool to have a line of shoes with some sweet crosses on them. Like, maybe that's what you got to do. And it seems like there's this continued undercurrent of Christian artists who care about Jesus, and we need more. And we need people making things not at a low level, but we need people making things at the highest level where you don't have to say, I'm watching this because I'm Christian. But you're saying, I'm watching this because it's awesome, and I can't get enough of it. I'm choosing to spend my time doing this, yes, as a Christian. But how can you choose your time to be a Christian, to make something, because we need Christian artists. It's this huge need out there with the amount of people that are making things that are not Christian. We need to fight that. Like, it's a battle, a spiritual battle that we need Christian artists stepping up for. And there's some really cool things that are happening here at campus and just people around the world that are making Christian art at a high level. And we need more people to do it. Because I think there's roles and jobs for Christian artists that don't even exist yet. So maybe that's your job someday.
That's awesome. What's going to happen to this show afterwards, since it's all cardboard?
Yeah. If there's a couple people in here that were at my senior show, but we had like a fire outside here. And I don't think that'll be the case tonight. But I made like some sculptures out of like matches, and then we like lit them up, and it was kind of weird. So like the nice thing about these is they're really light, and you can fit a lot of them close to each other because they're on cardboard. So what is it going to happen? Well, I'm hoping that I can bring it on tour a little bit. I have a couple galleries that I plan to bring him to. Nothing this big, so I'm hoping to just kind of like piece it apart. And yeah, I didn't have to think that far ahead. I didn't have to think where it's going to go because it's on cardboard and there's not a huge weight of value associated with it. But I think it would be fun to break some other spaces up with the corrugation and talk about God's role in our lives in non-Christian friendly spaces. So maybe that's my challenge. New Ulm Public Library called me yesterday back. So maybe I'm going there. I don't know yet. We'll figure it out. Next. I feel like that was a clap. Are we like?
Yeah. Now we switch.
No, we're done.
Well, we do switch now. I'm going to open up if anybody else has questions for Mike. I want to hear him.
So why did you make that one printed on metal? Well, that originally was cardboard, I'm assuming, right?
This originally was cardboard, and then I had it up at a coffee shop, and someone I don't know bought it, which I was like, weird. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it was pretty sweet to like sell it to some random person, and they said that they struggled with being humble, and they wanted it to be in their office, so they continued to each day have this as a reminder that we're seeking people to be kind to one another. You're not here to have the best outfit out of everyone in your class, but you are here to love the people that God has put in your life. So I printed it also here because the person has it and I don't have it. And so there's that to like bring this image that I kind of enjoyed into this show. But also, again, just that archival challenge. Don't let something, because it might not last forever, hold you back from playing with it and making it. Other questions? Hey.
I saw that in some of the projects you've done, you incorporated some maps. The locations visible, was that intentional? Were there,
Yeah, so when you're working with a map, there's two things. There's where is the map? What does the map mean? The idea of a map. And then what is the image on top of it? And one of the maps, it was important where it was. One of the maps just happened to have enough water for me to do the flower I wanted to do. And another map, it was more about the fact that I wanted to explore the concept of location to who you are. I had an opportunity actually to go to the same school Maida did in Florence, Italy. That was the first opportunity in my life where no one in my life, or no one around me knew who I was. No expectation for who you are. No one has any idea what you bring to the table. So then the question for me was always, who am I? Who am I when no one knows who you are? When no one knows any expectations for you? Who are you going to be? And as I've got a chance to go to different locations, that's been a blessing of traveling and a blessing of packing up cardboard boxes and going somewhere and trying to serve others first. So now that I'm home and people recognize me, and I'm having an art show here at Bethany, and this seems comfortable, how can I have that same attitude that I had when I was getting to know new people, of service first, of having people know you by your actions and your kindness and your love, and not because who they know that's connected to you. I don't love playing that game. oh, I know this person and you know that person, so that means we don't know each other. Like, or can you just like come in and have someone say thank you because you're cleaning up? Or can you come in and have someone know you for the actions and the words that you say, and have that service mindset reflect God's calling in your life? Good question, though.
Are these more poems or riddles?
Some of them are riddles I'm still trying to figure out. As an artist, your role is to make the artwork. You're in the process. Once you finish making the artwork, it's no longer yours. You lived in the moments when you made it. And then you put it out there, and then it's kind of fun to see what happens, to see what people take with it and take from it. So, yeah, it'll be fun to hear if you get a chance. Yeah, let me know some of the things that you're taking from this show.